Hey there, everybody. So I'm sitting here in the Grove, and I'm reading this book, and I wanted to share a chapter because when I started it, I found it pretty interesting. The book is The Secret Teachings of All Ages by Manly Hall. I flip through and reread chapters now and then to kind of regain a new understanding of them. It's funny how things change as our perspectives change, but this one, the chapter I was reading was called Flowers, Plants, Fruits, and Trees, and they were talking about the prudency and the prudence of the modern church, and how it's not reflective of the early idea of the Trinity. And it was explaining the difference, the lotus and the rose, and how they're the same symbol but for different cultures. But it was talking about flowers, flowers being the ultimate symbol of purity, and how all of our ancient symbolism is based on phallic representations, even the cross. And a lot of this can, I don't take it as gospel by any means. It's just interesting stuff. But the part about cultus arborum, which is the tree worship and whatnot, and I found it pretty funny, pretty interesting, not funny. I'll just read it. The worship of trees as proxies of divinity was prevalent throughout the ancient world. Temples were often built in the heart of sacred groves, and nocturnal ceremonials were conducted under the widespread branches of great trees, fantastically decorated and festooned in honor of their patron deities. Side note, while thinking about that, that's what Bohemian Grove is, if you've ever heard of that. It's where all the rich bastards get together and go dance like nuts. It's all based on that, ancient grove ceremonies. In many instances, the trees themselves were believed to possess the attributes of divine power and intelligence, and therefore supplications were often addressed to them. The beauty, dignity, massiveness, and strength of oaks, elms, and cedars led to their adoption as symbols of power, integrity, permanence, virility, and divine protection. Several ancient peoples, notably the Hindus and Scandinavians, regarded the macrocosm, or grand universe, as a divine tree growing from a single seed sown in space. The Greeks, Persians, Chaldeans, and Japanese have legends describing the axle tree, or reed upon which the earth revolves. Kapila declares the universe to be the eternal tree, Brahma, which springs from an imperceptible and intangible seed, the material monad. The medieval Kabbalists represented creation as a tree with its roots in the reality of spirit and its branches in the illusion of tangible existence. The Sephirothic tree of the Kabbalah was therefore inverted, with its roots in heaven and its branches upon the earth. Madame Blavatsky notes that the Great Pyramid was considered to be a symbol of the inverted tree, with its root at the apex of the pyramid and its branches diverging in four streams towards the base. And over on the side, I'll just show the picture real quick. It's the alchemical tree, the tree of alchemy. I don't know if it talks about it, but it's kind of a cool picture. The Scandinavian world tree, Yggdrasil, it's Yggdrasil, Yggdrasil, supports its branches 9 spheres or worlds, which the Egyptians symbolized by the 9 stamens of the Persia or avocado. All of these are enclosed within the mysterious 10th sphere or cosmic egg, the definitionless cipher of the mysteries. The Kabbalistic tree of the Jews also consists of 9 branches or worlds, emanating from the first cause or crown, which surrounds its emanations as that shell surrounds the egg. The single source of life and the endless diversity of its expression has a perfect analogy in the structure of the tree. The trunk represents the single origin of all diversity. The roots, deeply embedded in the dark earth, are symbolic of divine nutriment, and its multiplicity of branches spreading from the central trunk represents the infinity of universal effects dependent upon a single cause. The tree has also been accepted as symbolic of the microcosm, that is man. According to the esoteric doctrine, man first exists potentially within the body of the world tree, and later blossoms forth into objective manifestation upon its branches. According to an early Greek mystery of myth, the god Zeus fabricated the third race of men from ash trees. The serpent, so often shown wound around the trunk of a tree, usually signifies the mind, the power of thought, and is the eternal tempter or urge which leads all rational creatures to the ultimate discovery of reality, and thus overthrows the rule of the gods. The serpent hidden in the foliage of the universal tree represents the cosmic mind, and in the human tree, the individualized intellect. The concept that all life originates from seeds caused grain and various plants to be accepted as emblematic of the human spermatozoon. Spermatozoon. Should be spermazoa, right? Spermatozoon. That's a weird word. Spermatozoon. And the tree was therefore symbolic of organized life unfolding from its primitive germ. The growth of the universe from its primitive seed may be likened to the growth of the mighty oak from the tiny acorn. While the tree is apparently much greater than its own source, nevertheless, that source contains potentially every branch, twig, and leaf which will later be objectively unfolded by the process of growth. Man's veneration for trees as symbols of the abstract qualities of wisdom and integrity also led him to designate as trees those individuals who possess these divine qualities, to an apparently superhuman degree. Highly illuminated philosophers and priests were therefore often referred to as trees or tree men. For example, the Druids, whose names, according to one interpretation, signifies the men of the oak trees, or the initiates of the Syrian mysteries who were called the Cedars. In fact, it is far more credible and probable that the famous Cedars of Lebanon, cut down for the building of King Solomon's temple, were really illumined, initiated sages. The mystic knows that the true supports of God's glorious house were not the logs subject to decay, but the immortal and imperishable intellects of the tree hierophants. Trees repeatedly mentioned in the Old and New Testaments and in the scriptures of various pagan nations. The tree of life and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil mentioned in Genesis, the burning bush in which the angel appeared to Moses, the famous vine and fig tree of the New Testament, the grove of olives in the Garden of Gethsemane, where Jesus went to pray, and the miraculous tree of Revelation which bore 12 manners of fruit, and whose leaves were for the healing of all nations, all bear witness to the esteem in which trees were held by the scribes of Holy Madras in India, and several of the eastern gods are pictured sitting in meditation beneath the spreading branches of mighty trees. Many of the great sages and saviors carried wands, rods, or staves cut from the wood of sacred trees, as the rods of Moses and Aaron, Gungnir, the spear of Odin, cut from the tree of life, and the consecrated rod of Hermes, around which the fighting serpents entwine themselves. I guess I'll leave it at that. It's a pretty interesting chapter, but it goes on and on, so I'll read the rest to myself, so just wanted to share it. Take care.